Roger Thunder, the Desert Shaman. Today I'm going to talk about the artificial intelligence and the overlay. I've talked about this before, but I got some new information. I happened upon another resource or channel or person that kind of confirms everything I've been saying about this. Now this comes from a different source. I usually just get downloads or information on an intuitive level, but sometimes I get information to clarify that or to back that up. And I ran into this other channel, Archaics, with Jason Bashir, and he's a great, what I call data miner. That's what actually he says he is, data miner. A person that goes back and reads tons and tons and tons of books and does research and into all different kinds of areas. Now I've done the similar research, but it's not as intensive because this guy spent, I think, 20 years in jail, and that's all he did was research ancient history and ancient civilizations and ancient philosophy and ancient, just a lot of old books, ancient writings, Plato, Greek writings, ancient biblical and spiritual scriptures. Now, again, I say that I have done a lot of this myself, but it's always nice to get a confirmation from somebody that might be coming from a different angle, completely different angle. Just a research, not necessarily a spiritual angle, but like I come from more of a shamanistic point of view. But when you find somebody else that comes from another point of view as to just researching data and putting it all together and looking at timelines, historical timelines, looking at events that have happened in the past, searching for clues as to maybe what went down in the past. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because this person has clarified some of the things, like I said before, that I get in downloads and you know, with other intel that I gather. And I like the concept because I've talked about this overlay of the artificial intelligence. Seems as though in his research, going way back, that this is something that has been evident by different events in historical timelines, that evidently there has always been some kind of, well, I'll use a popular term, matrix, but I like the word overlay, or over a governor surrounding the planet, or surrounding what we think is our reality. In other words, it has the ability to change our perception of reality. And this is something I have talked about in relationship to the archontic, or the archons. And I've talked about this in relationship to Sophia, or the fallen goddess scenario, which originated in the Gnostic scriptures. Okay, but this guy has done research on that part of it too, and upon biblical narratives and mystery school narratives and things of that nature. So the concept is that there is an overlay, and that there is a control over our reality. It's basically pretty much on the same page as I was talking about, with a little bit different twist. But an overlay of reality, artificial intelligence, or a controlled intelligence, or a controlled reality upon the reality of nature, something that's already here. But what it does is it masks nature, and it actually masks the cosmos. It's almost kind of like being in a prison planet. Another concept that I like is the two different realities that he talks about. I might have him on my channel at some point, or go on his if I can manage that. Seems to be a pretty busy person though. But the two reality concept is again something that I have talked about. And of course, if you have this overlay, then you're going to have two different realities. But here's the thing: I've also talked about collective consciousness and the individual consciousness, them being two different realities. You got the collective consciousness, which is the hive mentality or the herd mentality, which is basically comprised of sleepers, people that are not awake, okay, or they're in a mindset that has actually been perpetrated by this imposed artificial reality that is imposed upon mankind. And then there's that reality, and then there's the reality of your own personal reality, your own personal, let's say you're on a higher frequency and you see all this stuff going on around you, and you see all these people doing stupid things, like buying into phony health issues, national health issues, if you get my drift, and buying into wars and watching this and watching that and getting all hung up in financial stuff and all the stuff that's going on in the world today. But yet they're really not hung up in it. They're basically bombarded with this stuff, but they know little about it, or they know little about what the agenda is. So you have your own personal reality if you're on a higher frequency, and that's the key. And that's why I did my series on raising your consciousness, let's say 3, 4, 5 videos ago, a series of 3, which you need to check out. This is exactly why I've been doing this kind of thing, in order to raise people's consciousness. And then I did a thing on Tantra with another person as your partner, being able to raise your consciousness through energy and sexual practices. But the more stuff that I dig up and the more people that I listen to that are on it, the more people that I find that are coming from a similar point of view. And there's not many, really. To be truthful with you, it's kind of refreshing to find somebody that is coming from a completely different source that basically clarifies or backs up what I've been saying all along. And so it's imperative that people pay attention to this situation of the two different realities and the control. Now, where does this control come from? Well, it could very well come from the archontic or the archons or the I call it the mistake of when the earth came into being through the divine emanation. I see it as a flaw, okay? And this flaw turned out to be creatures, okay, that actually can control the planet and mankind from a different level, or a different source, or a different reality or dimension, let's say. Now, to me, this is evident. Now, here's another thing that this person talked about, which clarified a lot of things, or supported a lot of things, and that's these. He actually went on a truther channel, and the ones that I vilify all the time, that talk about all these weird things like underground tunnels and dumbs, and there's children under there and they need to be rescued, and the whole patriot thing, the white hats and the black hats. And he kind of went on this guy's channel and demolished that whole thing. But he brought out the information, and something else again I knew from like Hopi prophecy, and looking into Hopi prophecy and their tales about coming from the underground. There's a whole source of tunnels, and not just tunnels, but excavations and whole cities and whole transportation systems underground, and have been for quite some time. High-speed rail, maybe, advanced stuff. So this is, again, is this elite group of people that are doing this. They're actually building things underground because they've been doing it for a long time, and they realize that something's coming and they're not telling us about it. Also, there's two different factions. I've also mentioned this. Two different factions of the elite that seem to be at odds with one another as to the way things should be done in the control of mankind. And I've often talked about this as things being on a much higher level than what we realize. Very, very high level. Something that we can't even comprehend. Events, and I'm just talking about things that I agree with this person, or that have been in my dialogue, or my narrative, or my knowledge for quite some time. So I guess the basic reason I'm bringing this up is clarification and confirmation of certain things that I've been talking about. And it's always nice to get that. It's always nice to listen to different resources and get information from, like I say, another vantage point. So the Hopi talk about the underground people, and lots of tribal people talk about, indigenous people talk about those who live underground. And so that seems to ring true, with things that I've been saying. Just bringing up some points here that I've been talking about, and now let me see what else can I glean from what was said. I'm trying to think here. So you got the two different realities. You got the overlay. You got the underground situation. You got, now here's another thing that this person said that I've been saying all along, and that is how the certain movements are controlled. Okay, they're controlled by the elite. They're like, say, different narratives like the truther movement and the patriot thing, and all the hogwash that goes along with some of the far-fetched tales they have. This has all been programmed into these people by other people. Man, I mean, I can't tell you how good this feels to hear it from somebody else. Makes me feel like, hey, you're not the Lone Ranger, But then again, it also clarifies that I get shamanistic, being a practitioner, a shamanistic practitioner, I get downloads an intuitive insight from other sources, which comes out to be spot on. And actually, lately I've been rewriting or re-editing a book I wrote back in 2010, and I'm also finding stuff in there from my book Emergence, which coincides with a lot of this stuff too. And on my other book, Listen to the Wind, Speak from the Heart. So anyway, a lot of the stuff, if you go through the data mining concept, a lot of the stuff that has been going on is cyclical. Like I said, I've said that before. It's cyclical, and there's certain time periods where events keep happening over and over and over again. Like, say, every 138 years is what this person was talking about, and I found that to be true. And then another thing was how history's been covered up, and how history has actually been restarted several different times, how technology has reached a far advanced state, and then how it's collapsed, how civilizations have collapsed, and then how they've started over, where technology all of a sudden just appears again at a certain point. And this person pointed out 1902, and I kind of talked about the turn of the century type thing too, in that it seems like a lot of devices, if you look at 1902 to 2002, or then to 2022, it's like, what, 120 years from the horse and carriage to the advanced technology that we have today with little tiny chips and cell phones, and that's not a whole long period of time. So this is something that gives insight as to what we can expect in the future, or what we can expect down the road. And it gives insight into how things have been planned and propagated, and propaganda and events are seemingly planned out. All these events that we see are there for a distraction from the real thing that is coming up down the road here. I might get into that later. But when you see things like political adversity, political battling, left and the right, seemingly tugging at one another and fighting with one another, and when you see things like wars, like the Ukraine war, against the supposed globalists, and the EU faction and the NATO faction and the Russian faction and things of that nature. It's all something that is a distraction from the reality, what's really going on, or what the real agenda is. These things are all a distraction. And the only way that you can see this is by raising your consciousness. This holds true when you see, like, say, for instance, the Ukraine war. People thought that was going to last a month, and here we are in, 9-10 months later, and it's still dragging on, and it's still got tape loop breaking news stories that seem to be the same old story every time. This person accuses this, another nation accuses this person, and then there's talk of nuclear war, and there's talk about the collapse of the financial system, and there's talk about the collapse of this nation and the collapse of that nation. And I mean, this stuff just keeps going on ad nauseum. It drags on. It's like watching paint dry, basically, because you think that something's going to come to some kind of culmination. Same way with the political process. Same way with the political process. It's the same thing. You think that there's going to be some kind of answer, some kind of culmination, some kind of end story, some kind of reprieve, some kind of hope. A lot of people look at it as hope for a brighter future or for whatever. So that never happens. It just keeps tape looping and tape looping and tape looping, and things keep going over and over and over again ad nauseum until you finally just throw up your hands and go, if you're following this stuff and if you buy into it, it's very depressing. It's very anxiety causing. It's very, unbalancing. So what we need to do is keep our center. We need to keep our center. We need to balance ourself and not get caught up in the collective consciousness that is being led around like, somebody with a fish hook in their mouth being pulled every which way. You can't get into that stuff. You have to get into your own reality and your own consciousness, and that's again why I did this. I really want you to go back and review how I was talking about raising your consciousness and meditation and spiritual breathing, and because it's all about energy and it's all about superseding the energy that is being bombarded on us daily by the media. And the media, again, something else I talked about, is the main propagator of all this stuff. It's the main mouthpiece. It's the main disseminating, destructive device that is used to lead people around into these illusions that they seem to be buying into. At some point, yes, I mean, the collective mentality or the herd consciousness, certain people will awake. The sleepers and the keepers, I call them in my book, Emergence. The sleepers and the keepers. The keepers are the wisdom keepers because they have raised their consciousness to a certain level to where they have the wisdom and they have the insight and they have the knowledge coming from a completely different frequency than the people that are in the herd mentality, sleeping, walking around. They're walking around like they're walking in their sleep. They're useless, basically. But at some point, people like myself and other people and this person that I ran into, and again, I might try to hook up with this person, do a show or something, because it's really very interesting. But it's also so important right now to renew, recenter, regroup, keep your center, doing spiritual practices. Eventually, on a cyclical level, all this stuff is going to come around. Now, there is an end game here, and I'm probably going to save that for another video because I want to do a little bit of research and maybe talk to this person and see what their take is on it. But there is an end game here as to when all this stuff is finally going to peter out or run its course to where what they're using isn't effective anymore. I think that it's already, and I've talked about this, I think it's already in the end game scenario. In other words, the power that they have is slowly dwindling and it's running out and it's running its course. And that could be cyclical, cyclical, or it could be just the end of the power that they have, which could also have to do with Sophia or Mother Earth or Unsi Maka, which is a completely other different consciousness that is aware of the consciousness. And I've talked about this before. Yeah, I'm saying that a lot, aren't I? I talked about this before. But it's just a reminder that it's a confirmation. But the consciousness of the planet also is something. Now, this is my own take, or a Gnostic take, is that the consciousness of the planet at some point is going to upgrade what's going on here. And when that happens, and it is a real consciousness, it's just as real as any other consciousness, your conscious, it's all the same, but it's more of a cosmic consciousness connected to the divine emanation. There is a divine emanation beyond all these games that's going on. There is what this person calls a benefactor. I always called it the divine emanation, or Native Americans call it Great Spirit. Beyond the concept of the gods and goddesses that rule this planet, beyond the false gods, on the lower realm, which was created by this archontic, or these archons that want to deceive and make people think that the God of the Bible, or the mean God of the Bible, is the one that is the real God, when that in fact is the false God. This stuff is all connected, it all makes sense, and it's all going to come out in the wash. But I thought I'd do a short video today. I'm going to keep this kind of short, but I just wanted to talk about those things, how important it is not to get caught up in the narratives out there, getting total confirmation on this over and over again from different sources. So anyway, I thought I'd just come on and talk a little, and then I guess I'll just leave it there and come back a little bit later when I have some more things to talk about. So I'll leave it there, and until I see you next time. Before I go, though, you're all ready to turn it off, I know, but I wanna show you my books, I guess, and how you can get them. So basically, let's go here to my website. This is Spirit of Crazy Horse, and I kind of redid the website a little bit. If you want to help me out here, this is how you can do it. Go to Spirit of Crazy Horse. If you donate $10 or more right here, not over here, not in this section. This is for buying on Amazon and stuff. But if you want to, got stuff popping up here. If you want to donate $10, and several people have, and I thank them for that, you'll get a copy of Listen to the Wind Speak from the Heart, or this book, Emergence, which I'm just finishing up rewriting or re-editing for a revised edition. This will be probably ready in another day or two. So, and I'll talk about more about these books later. But it would help me if you could donate, and whatever you can afford. And also, I have that buy me a cup of coffee thing down in my show notes too, where you can do it that way. And also these books are going to be on another platform that you can buy them directly from that in the e-version. Remember, when you donate, this is an e-book. This isn't a regular book. You're going to get an e-version of the book, electronic version that you can read with Acrobat Reader or whatever. So that would be helpful if you know if you feel like you can do that. That would be helpful to me. So on that note, I guess I'll leave it there. And also, please subscribe. You can go down into the right-hand corner, and there's a little button down there, a little red button that says sub. Just go down there and hit that and subscribe. And like everybody else says, like this video and subscribe and share it, because it helps me, helps my channel. I've been doing this a long time, and I haven't really been pushing the narrative of the having thousands of viewers or anything like that. So maybe it's time I did. I don't know. I'll leave it there. Adios.